You might have heard of prompt engineering, context engineering, agent harness, loop engineering, or the new concept in the town, graph engineering. They are not five different buzzwords. They are actually five layers of the same stack. Each one exists because the layer before it broke. Big shape of where we are going. Every layer we add makes the system more capable and more complicated at the same time. Most people jump straight to I need an agent without understanding the full concept. So we are going in order, bottom to top, and I will tell you exactly where one stops working and why. You have an LLM, a model, you add some system prompts, you give some of the few short example and a user prompt, right? And once you give something, there comes a response. This was the industry practice in 2022, I guess, when the ChatGPT first came. That is what prompt engineering has been. You engineer the prompt here. Some of them are pros, fast to iterate, works with any model out of the box, cheap, one call, but there are a couple of cons as well. So no memory across turns or sessions. Your LLM does not remember your users. They cannot solve a real problem exactly brittle. It will break to anything if you give it out of the context. If you tell, hey, who's the president of the 2026, it will always say, hey, I'm cut off. I don't know who is the president of 2026 and I have been trained till 2024 only. So this was couple of the problem with that, and we came up with a solution, and we wanted our agent to have more context about things, to know more what is going on, what is knowledge base we have, what our company does, what user does, all those things. So we came to a different solution called context engineering. Now let's look at what context engineering is here. Okay, so we have LLM model, of course, like prompt engineering, but everything in inside whatever the engineering you can do inside a context window, we just do it here. So what happens is, instead of just adding a prompt and adding a system prompt or something and a user query, what we do is we ask a user query, we go to a context assembler. The context assembler works as some kind of helping hand to LLM. What it does, it actually go retrieve all the data regarding the query of the user, and that can happen from anywhere. It can be skill.md file you have in your system, or you have a semantic db like this, durable fact, user profile, what the company does, and all the episodic memory, which is like rag plus recency, like how recent has it been re-ranked and all things. It matters. And once there is a new turn, you only consider the n number of the data, and then the summarization would happen to the 10 last conversation, and then it will be distilled into a facts. So this is like how RAG will work here, and it will give you a context about the whatever the user query. Now what happens is, this all the data will go to LLM now. Instead of just getting to a user query, this will tell you what all the 10 last conversation user had. Not just that, it converted into a fact, and it has skills. So after all these things they have, that is what goes fed into the model, and then it respond, the model respond with all those contexts, so that they can understand not an answer to a question, but a meaningful answer to the question. So this is what we had, but now it has its pros, of course. So let's look at the pros now. So couple of pros was grounded in real time, like it has the current data, can tell you your name and all those things, and it kind of reduced a lot of hallucination in comparison to prompt only. And knowledge persisted actually, so whatever you teach him today, it will remember tomorrow as well. So you can actually chat in a different sessions, and you can actually work through it. But it also had a lot of cons. Couple of things, retrieval quantity, like quality just broke, right? It became the bottleneck actually. So what happened is, like, there was a lot of data you fed, and at some point it will start hallucination because it's a lot of context, and it was extra latency per request, and it needed more infra, embedding, vector db, querying, indexing, all those things. Then we wanted some, not generic solution, but a fixed solution where we want LLMs to actually do things for us. And here comes the harness engineering. This is actually where your LLM can have some hands, not just a brain, not just a memory thing. It can actually do something. And what we did is, we have LLM agent model, whatever you call, right? A user gives a prompt, and what happens is, prompt came in, and now the LLM will decide if it needs a tool. You can say, hey, open Chrome or do something like that. Now LLM has the power to actually do that. So it will think about it, hey, I need to call the Chrome. So it will actually go ahead and tool call it. You will have like couple of the gates and all. That is more like permission system we do. If you remember when we do a Claude, it asks for allow or allow all edits and all those things. So every tool call has been gated. So for your own security, of course. And then once the tool call happens, we execute that. And then we have replies. We get the reply. So this was hardness around it. It just not had context, but it has hands. Like in the tool, actually, it can have memory, save memory. So no, we had not got ridden of the context part of it. We still need the memory. So a couple of pros we had is give the model real world capabilities, sandboxing, keep execution contained, and reusable across many tasks. You can do like you can have a LLM which can actually like talk to like do all the browser tasks. Right? So one agent harness can do multiple work. Now cons for like, larger attack surface actually. There is prompt engineering and tool injections. Prompt injection. So it's been going on and some like to worry about. So we have a tool injection here as well. Needs careful permission guardrail design, right? So if there is no allow list or there is no guardrails around it, what is destructive, what is constructive, what if user wants it? There need to be a actual case to think about it. Failures are harder to trace because there's logs and all might not be available if you're using third-party LLMs, and there might be cases where you cannot recover from it. So this was like one of the biggest problem with the tool and all. We got into like one concept called loop engineering. So what happened is there was this guy Andre Karpathy. He came up with this loop engineering idea as far as I remember. So the way it designed his harness was it can observe, think about on it, check if it works or not, then look at the log files or something like that and repeat till it actually gets the desired output. So what it does is whenever you have any LLMs, right, will give the query, hey, fix my code base or something like that. What it will do is it will do a tool call. And then once it's done, it will execute or do all the changes and everything, and some result will come up. And if it's like get the desired value, it will actually stop the loop. If it did not get the desired value, it will again look for the new perspective till it actually do that, and then it only replies. So guardrails are max turns, basically budget, timeout, and all those things. But there is not much stopping. It needs to be automated process. You cannot allow all these things. It will run until it's done with something. So a couple of pros were handles multi-systems, self-correcting, and fully observable via tracing and evals. Okay, so it's like multi-loop can actually do what it thinks, what it calls, all these things can be traced in a trace hotel provider and all those things. There are some cons to it as well. Can run away in cost and time without guardrails. Like harder to predict exact behavior. So that is one thing you might not be able to look at what it is doing, how it is doing, and will it actually follow the same thing every time? Because a little bit of changes can actually make a bigger difference when it comes to probabilities. Every extra iteration adds latency. So one thing, let's say you say something, "Hey, write hi to it," and it might think a lot of things and try to do this, that, and every time a loop happens, it will take a lot of time. Each loop will be a full circle around every tool call, extraction of the data, writing something, all these things add latency to it. So this was one of the issue. And one new term came in, which is graph engineering, and this is like pretty interesting because we always follow a specific path, specific graph, where if something happens, you go this way. If it's some different thing, you go that way. So we have multiple ways. No one function or one node is doing all the works and like going crazy over it. We always have some deterministic routes for every pattern. Now what we did is we still did we take the good part of like orchestration engines, orchestration platforms, automations, all the DAGs and all what you call, right? We took all the good part and we took the intelligence of the LLM models, we put it together, and what we had is this new concept called graph engineering, basically AI graph engineering. So instead of us saying, hey, instead of LLM deciding everything on its own, we figure out a deterministic ways, okay, and then we have a non-deterministic thing, some kind of research, some kind of decision making, some kind of something, that where we put our agent. So if this thing goes, go to agent A. If this thing comes in, go to agent B. If this thing comes in, go to agent C. And once that's done, you might want to do a couple of things, maybe direct it to another agent or consider all these facts and all. So let's see how it works. So we have the entry, okay, condition edge, okay, and then we have supervisor and router. Basically it's functioning to route to the right one. So if it's something we want to do with database, go to agent A. We want to do something with something else, go to agent B, agent C, depending on their specializations. And what the supervisor does, it also keep writing to a shared state where all these can actually access as well, and we can persist the checkpoints as well, so that if you want to go back to certain point, we can do that. And once these agents are done their work, they can run in their own isolated environments. They can run for whatever they want to do, run for, and you can actually extend. You can have more, three more agents here per agency, which agency is going to divert its work to them. And once that is done, you will see that we join everything from all these agents we have, and then we did an output. Couple of pros of that is handle complex branching workflows, right? If you see even Claude Code, if you ask for a research trigger, it will actually create a workflow and then run it. So you are actually doing a deterministic function where there are a lot of blocks of code, which is actually for all the undeterministic things you want to do, all the intelligence you want to do, and it actually comes back and then go to the next step. That is what workflows are. So it handles a lot of complex workflows, parallelize across sub agents. You can do the parallelizations, composable, reusable. You can actually take out the agent B and use somewhere else if you want, because it is cycle, checkpoint support, Raymond approval. We have all those things now, and more upfront complex design, meaning you have to actually design it. How do you want your workflows to go from one step to the other step? How much depth you want, what you want, when it goes back to it. Is it only going to be DAG? Because no, graphs are not going to be DAG here. It will actually go back to it. We are not going to follow the old automation and orchestration where we had the DAG one way only. No, because it's agent, it can go to it can actually self call itself, or it can self call its parent to do something else, right? So that is what like a hybrid version of it is now. Distributed failures are harder to debug actually, and shared state schema must be carefully designed, because one then again it's a reader writer problems, you always know. So we have to design it very carefully to make it actually work in a proper production environment. So prompt engineering gets the word right but has no memory. Context engineering whereas gives it memory and grounding, but still harness engineering whereas gives it hand but no sense of when to stop. And loop engineering gives it the proper stopping condition, iteration, but doesn't scale past one agent. Now graph engineering came in and it actually give us the scalability of it. Shared state, condition routing, cycles, checkpoints for when a human needs to step in. Here's the practical takeaway before you go. Before you reach for I need to build an agent, figure out which layer you actually missing. Half of the time, the honest answer is you don't need an agent. You need better context, diagnose the actual gap first, and the framework comes after. That's the full stack. If this made one of these 5 terms finally click, that's the whole point of the video. Subscribe if you want the next one, because we will be talking more about AI concept and building them. See you in the next one.